It does not fall to me to do the formal introduction of our wonderful mayor. It is, however, my privilege to welcome him to the university, at which he is both a parent and a child. Both his daughter and his mother obtained degrees from NYU. I say obtained degrees because his daughter is just about to get her degree, and he asks me each time I see him if that will happen, and all reports are positive, Mr. Mayor, and I'm now saying that publicly, maybe not on behalf of the university, but his mother, God bless her, is one of our prized alumni. I think it was February of 2005 when I was asked by the mayor to go to the islands with him. This was at a time when it was known that he went to the islands periodically, and no one knew exactly which islands were blessed by his presence. He said, "Tell Lisa she can come along." I said, "Well, what island are we visiting?" He said, "Staten Island." But note the date. It was February 2005. It was about 6 or 7 months before his re-election. His staff, notwithstanding his extraordinary record, was focused on November. And he asked me if I would come to Staten Island and meet with a group of his commissioners and him and discuss what would make New York work as an idea capital of the world in 2050. Here he was 7 months before an election campaign thinking about what would make our city work in 2050. Extraordinary. Amazing for a public official in elected office, but of course characteristic of Mike Bloomberg. Urbanologists, and I went to the urbanologist at our Wagner School of Public Service because it's the place to go if you want to know about what makes cities work, if you want to know what makes the world work, as a matter of fact. They taught me that in the 20th century, what had magnetized people to New York was what the urbanologists called FIRE, finance, insurance, real estate. But it was clear that that need for propinquity to the markets that had attracted then the law firms and the accounting firms and all of the other ancillary activities wouldn't be enough in the 21st century. So I came up with a phrase that weekend. I said, in the 21st century, we're going to have to, if New York is going to remain the capital of the world, we're going to have to supplement FIRE with ICE, the intellectual, cultural, and educational component. FIRE and ICE. And it was that the mayor caused us to talk about, those 4 years ago. And here we are today. As he makes an announcement which appreciates the fact that the ICE sector, as well as the FIRE sector of this city, is a great sector that's built brick by brick by the non-governmental agencies as well as government agencies, the cultural institutions, the educational institutions, all that goes to make up the pyramid of talent in this great city and service it and make this the wonderful place that it is to live. Now, the Wagner School of Public Service, under the wonderful leadership of Ellen Schall, a dear friend as well as a great dean, studies all of the factors that go into making greatness in a city, in a country, in a world. And it, too, reveals the truth that without the support of the organizations represented in this room, unless they can thrive, this city can't thrive. And Mayor Bloomberg, on behalf of all of us, on behalf of the city, as a citizen of the city, I say thank you for having both the wisdom and the courage to look not only at the problems of the day, and they are acute, but to realize what the solutions are today that seed the wonder of this city in the future. For the formal introduction of Mayor Bloomberg to our university, I give you that wonderful woman, our dean, the dean of the Wagner School, Ellen Schall.
Thank you, John, and hello to all of you. This is both a leadership moment and a moment for leadership. I'm proud to stand here today with two extraordinary leaders who in turn lead two extraordinary places, New York City and New York University, which we believe is the New York University. Leadership, though, is more than the acts of the people who hold office or run major institutions. At Wagner, we understand leadership to be about setting direction, adapting to change, and mobilizing commitment. And we see it as the work of communities and of groups, not just the acts or traits of individuals. I want to take a minute and acknowledge the people who've assembled here today. New York City is blessed to have people of such talent who have devoted themselves and their whole career to public service. Thank you for coming. The mayor is about to announce a very significant set of initiatives that will assist New York City nonprofits in these tough economic times. These are welcome and important, very important, as is his reminder to the wider public about how critical the sector is to the health and vitality of New York City. But just as important is what each of us in the room is doing to set direction, adapt to the changes that have hit us, and mobilize the commitment of the wider public. This is a time for each of us to take stock, both of our own nonprofits and the field. NYU Wagner is, of course, one of those nonprofits, as is the university in which we sit. We will continue to be a talent pipeline and a thinking partner, both to the city and for the sector. In addition, we are pleased to announce, in the spirit of setting direction and adapting to change, that we are launching two initiatives. We are calling one Pivot Point to help prepare career changers who want to move from the private sector to public service, as Mayor Bloomberg did with such conviction and impact, although it seems unlikely we'll have all these people will turn out to be mayor. And the other, with NYU's School of Law and its Stern School of Business, is a venture to assist the sector consider its own version of mergers and acquisitions. In that spirit of partnership, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our mayor, the mayor of the city of New York, a hugely strong supporter of nonprofits and of public service.
Thank you. Thank you all. Ellen, thank you, not just for hosting us today, but also for your extraordinary work with the Wagner School and all that it does in preparing students for careers in both the public and nonprofit sectors. You really do make a big difference. President Sexton, head of a nonprofit institution that, let me note, employs over 6,000 people, so we like that. All of them pay taxes. I listened very carefully to your kind words, and I did a little bit of math. In the year 2050, I will be 108 years old, and perhaps in my 12th term as mayor if we change the law. I don't think so. I'll settle for one more, thank you. Anyways, distinguished guests, thank you for joining us, and my best wishes to those celebrating any of the three major religious holidays this week: Passover, Easter, or opening day. The common denominator, by the way, is prayer, and I'm sure neither the Mets nor the Yankees would say no to some divine assistance. Some of you may join me at my sister's for Passover Seder, where the food is exactly the same every single year, but we do have a good time, and it's a wonderful holiday. And Easter also, for Christians, is a great chance to get together and to share what we have in common and practice our religion. There are some things that we could talk about, maybe better times for New York's baseball teams, but rather than talking about the troubling times facing our nonprofit sectors, a little more, it probably makes more sense. Support for the sector is a matter of urgent importance for our entire city, as you know. because, as John said, you are such a vital part of the city's infrastructure, and in fact, just as important as our bridges and roads. You are the model for innovation and source of inspiration in providing housing and human services and artistic expression. And every day, in close partnership with our administration, you help the people of our city make better lives for themselves with essential services in every neighborhood and every borough of the city. And by unlocking and nurturing human potential, you in the private sector, the public sector, the nonprofit sector, whether you do it full-time or part-time, you enlarge the possibilities of creating a better world and in many cases often literally save lives. Now, what too many people often overlook is that you are also a vital sector of our economy. We asked the Fiscal Policy Institute to analyze what the nonprofit sector means to our city's economy, and they found that New York nonprofits, which have a total annual payroll of more than $20 billion, employ nearly 500,000 people, or roughly 15% of the city's workforce. It's really quite amazing. In many cases, such employment is the first step up the ladder to financial self-sufficiency, and according to the IRS, New York City has more than 40,000 nonprofit organizations. And that only begins to capture your economic impact. If you just take a look at culture, it makes this city a huge magnet for talent. We have more actors and dancers and musicians in New York than licensed physicians, and the economic impact is broad and deep. Not only do nonprofit cultural institutions generate a $5 billion economic impact every year, cultural institutions also are in the top 1% of employers in Brooklyn, and the Bronx Zoo is the top employer of minority youth in that borough. And for these reasons, the stresses you're facing today with shrinking financial resources and increased demand really are of critical concern to all of us. As the recession has deepened, we've listened very carefully to you and your colleagues in the nonprofit sector. We've heard from those of you who've lost bank lines to people with bank lines where you really had great credit and had perfect payment histories, but nevertheless the bank lines have gone away. From those whose endowment has plummeted as much as 40% in value. And far too often we've heard about the pink slips that have gone out to even your most experienced and valued staff members. In the State of the City in January, I pledged to work with you to address these issues, and today we want to make good on that pledge. Some of our initiatives that we will offer give opportunities for all nonprofits. Others will affect only those doing business with the city, but nevertheless, we think that they will all help the most important parts of our economy and our ability to make life better for all New Yorkers. And they fall into three categories: helping you stretch the dollars that you have, improving city contracting, including getting your money out the door faster, and building new partnerships for stronger nonprofits. I have to stress that there are no magic wands, sorry. There are no magic solutions in economic times as severe and as unpredictable as these, not for the city in addressing our fiscal issues and not for social services and cultural nonprofits. But it's also true that every crisis presents opportunities. And working together, I think we have opportunities during these enormously difficult days to devise strategies that will serve us all well now and into the future. First, a key problem of all nonprofits that they're facing today is how to deal with fixed cost as funding declines. And we want to help all of you lift your bottom lines by lowering your overhead costs. And we'll begin in the realm of purchasing. Everyone who budgets for a business, a household, or a nonprofit group understands that buying in bulk almost always means getting a better price. In fact, we estimate that for a number of years, nonprofit groups serving our senior citizens that have pooled their purchases of food and furniture and other basic supplies really have had significant savings. Last summer, the staff of Linda Gibbs, our Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services, began working with city agencies and nonprofit leaders on ways to extend these savings more broadly. And when economic conditions worsened last fall, we decided that it was time to begin scaling up this process. Right now, working under the guidance of the Human Services Council, 3 of our city's flagship social service nonprofits, the Children's Aid Society, Urban Pathways, and Barrier Free Living, are pilot testing group purchases of supplies. And by the end of the summer, if the results of the pilot project are as good as they promise to be, such group purchasing will begin to be open to every nonprofit group in our 5 boroughs, whether you receive city funding or not. And we think that the potential savings should run into many millions of dollars. In fact, we estimate savings of more than $5 million a year just for nonprofits that contract with city agencies. And let me add that we'll follow up this purchasing program with innovations in other areas. By July, there'll be a program for group purchasing of information technology, and by this summer, we'll have a plan in place for group procurement of workers' compensation and disability insurance by nonprofits. And these should also produce many more millions of dollars in savings. We're also looking at another key overhead cost, and that is energy. This is a complex issue, and several agencies have been looking at it for many years, and there's every reason to continue working for innovative, cost-effective green solutions to your energy needs, including helping nonprofits become more energy efficient. So we're working with the New York Power Authority. It offers important cost-saving programs for nonprofits, and we believe there's a potential to do more. To fully understand the issue, we need to start by getting the facts. Maybe the energy is going down. It's part of our energy-saving campaign for NYU. To fully understand the issue, we need to start by getting the facts, and tomorrow we'll begin a thorough evaluation of energy use by the city's nonprofit community. Our second set of initiatives focuses on making our largest nonprofit funder more responsive and efficient, and that would, of course, be the City of New York. We've got a good record to build on, I think. Over the past 7 years, for example, we've negotiated 2 much-needed cost of living raises for workers in human services agencies. We've also greatly streamlined contracting rules, making it easier for all nonprofits to do business with city agencies. And now we're augmenting those reforms. Our major goal is ensuring you get paid as quickly as possible. And if you're a social service agency that contracts with the city, let me assure you that we're acting now to avoid interrupting payments for your services when the new fiscal year begins in July. We understand that you have clients, you have payrolls, and you have bills to pay. We also understand that you can't meet any of these obligations without money. To make sure that you get your money promptly, my staff is now rigorously going through our more than 1,600 human services contracts. We're making sure that each meets all the necessary conflict of interest and legal compliance requirements we've put in place. For cultural institutions, under the reformed funding process we instituted 3 years ago, decisions are made before the start of the new fiscal year, so groups know right away what level of city support they can expect. For all nonprofits doing business with the city, we've also created a special unit of the Mayor's Office of Contract Services. It guides you through the process and helps you fulfill your part of it. We're also working with the Charities Bureau in the State Attorney General's office to make sure this entire process moves as quickly as possible. And then once all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, we're going to make city agencies more accountable for holding up their end of the contracting bargain. First, the Mayor's Office, effective today, will publish online a report of exactly where each contract with each agency is in the pipeline, in the procurement pipeline. All you have to do is go to nyc.gov/nonprofit. And second, as many of you, yes, thank you very much. Second, as many of you know, the Mayor's Office of Operations regularly evaluates agency performance and publishes its findings on the city's website at nyc.gov. They will, beginning now, include reports on each agency's efficiency in processing contracts, and hopefully that will force them to do a better job. There's nothing like the light of day to focus the mind. And third, and also effective today, we have designated a not-for-profit facilitator in the Mayor's office whose job is ensuring that your contracts and funding awards move more swiftly through the process. While we're making our funding process as efficient as possible, we can't ignore the duties to be stewards of the taxpayers' dollars, and our due diligence means that even under the most streamlined process, there will sometimes be gaps between when you deliver services and when we reimburse you. But we also want to reduce your need to take out interest-bearing loans as a consequence, and that's why today I'm proposing a major enhancement of the city's returnable grant fund, as it's called. As many of you know, this is an interest-free revolving loan pool of city funds that provides bridge loans to nonprofits with city funding. And every dollar loaned out during the fiscal year is recovered by that year's end. It's long been administered by an independent nonprofit, the Fund for the City of New York. So in this time of highlighted needs for nonprofits, we're proposing to increase the fund by 150% from its current $8 million to $20 million. These are immediate reforms meant to address the crisis at hand, but as I've suggested, any crisis is also an opportunity for more far-reaching changes, and that's why we're also moving forward with more sweeping reforms of how the city works with our nonprofit partners. Most profoundly, we'll rethink what's become a time-consuming, often repetitive, and overly rigid model for soliciting bids for many human services. The micromanagement regularly embodied in our requests for proposals, or RFPs. Certainly, we can and must hold everyone to high standards and rigorous outcomes, but we can do that without fitting everyone into straitjackets of our design. Now we think, yes, I can tell you which things hurt. And now we've got a better idea, and it starts with developing a standard multi-agency contract. With it in place, we'll be able to complete the contracting process more rapidly, with less paperwork for you, and make payments more efficiently. And you'll be free to present your program models your way with all the diversity and creativity that you can bring to the process. And that will let us focus on what matters most, the best ways to provide services to New Yorkers. That's because we believe in you and your limitless potential. And that belief animates the third and final set of initiatives that we're announcing today, those that build new partnerships for stronger nonprofits. City government has a key catalyzing role to play in this process. We can provide a central clearinghouse of information for a nonprofit sector that is highly decentralized, and that's why I'm announcing that starting immediately, the Citizen Service Hotline at 311 will be a major new resource for nonprofit managers and board members. If you have a question about the status of a city agency's payment to you, call 311. We will put you through to the new not-for-profit facilitator I mentioned earlier, who will get you the answers. If you don't have a contract with the city and you need emergency credit, call 311. We'll link you directly to the nonprofit desk at the Economic Development Corporation. And as we announced in October, they're administering a program of emergency credit for small businesses in distress, and I want to make sure that you know that it's there for you as well. Or if you're the executive director of a nonprofit looking for expert advice on managing your finances in these difficult days, call 311. It took a while to get you into this, but there we are. It's repetitiveness really is wonderful. You'll be directed straight to the advice that you need from our respected partner, the Community Resources Exchange. Now, in a world that is changing so quickly, We think it's essential for funders, policymakers, nonprofits, and their constituents to understand what's happening in real time. So the city's website at nyc.gov is also being retooled to make it a central resource of such information for and about nonprofits. Making nonprofits stronger involves collaboration between government and nonprofits, and also among nonprofits working together. And the New York Community Trust, for example, is addressing the sector's urgent short-term needs. In recent months, they've given millions of dollars to our city's nonprofits, especially in communities hit hardest by the recession. Our administration is also, you should know, working with the United Way of New York, bringing nonprofits together to share best practices and tackle hard choices. So today, I'm also pleased to announce that business leaders are stepping up to help our city during this economic crisis, just as they did during the fiscal crisis of the 1970s. And about 2 months ago, Blair and Cheryl Cohen-Ephraim and Gretchen and Jamie Rubin, part of our new generation of philanthropists, came to City Hall, and they wanted to know how they could be helpful, and together we created a new initiative called Greater New York. And working through the Mayor's Fund to Advance New York City, it will pair private sector executives with their counterparts in nonprofits that do business with the city. And these 2-year partnerships are designed to help you find innovative solutions to your business challenges. To learn more about the application and selection process, go to the city's website at nyc.gov. And I just want to thank the Ephrons and Rubins who are here with us today for their inspiring commitment to a greater New York. And just to show you that they are not talking about it, they are doing it, I want to congratulate them on already having signed up more than 30 business leaders in this effort. Their sense of service is precisely what animates all of you as well. And the work that you do really is so vital and so crucial to the very spirit of our city that we must be relentless in finding ways to be more effective so that you can not only survive these hard economic times, but thrive for many years to come, perhaps all the way out to my 108th birthday. Let me recap seriously what we've pledged today. All of it is spelled out in greater detail in handouts that you may pick up as you leave today, and also at nyc.gov/nonprofit. We're committed to helping you stretch your dollars further. We're improving the way the city agencies do business with you, and we will work with you to strengthen your organizations through creative new partnerships. So let me first, on behalf of 8.4 million people, most of whom called me today and said, be sure you say thankful for us. Well, not most, but not even some, not even any, but nevertheless, they should have called me today to say that. I just personally wanted to thank you. The most satisfying thing that I've ever done is working with Patty Harris, trying to help the nonprofits actually provide services and make a difference in our society. All of you are dedicated. If there's ever a group of people that deserve to look in a mirror tonight and be happy with what they see, just take this room full of people. All of you make an enormous difference. So on behalf of everyone, thank you for being here, but most importantly, thank you for what you do for our city. And now you're going to hear more from Ellen? Absolutely. God bless.
You can tell from the applause, Mr. Mayor, thank you, and thank Patty and Linda and all of your administration who've worked hard to make this happen. Unfortunately, the mayor doesn't have time for question and answer today, but this is a crowd that knows how to network, so I hope you'll take the opportunity to meet someone new, even as you catch up with people you know. Thank you for coming, and we look forward to working with you as we make it through this.